I never know whether I am live or not. It takes so long to tell me. Just one moment, please. Forgive me. Takes a little while. Here we are. And let me just check. Yes, and I look fine. Yes, I can hear myself. Thank you so much for being here. I am going to share this live on the free chat so people know. Um, Let me just taking a while. Okay. There we go. Okay. Well, welcome to my channel. My name is Elizabeth. Thank you for being here. Anyway, I would like to talk to you today, share with you my thoughts in regards to saying no, saying no to the agendas and realizing what it means to say no versus fighting against it. There's a, it's a, the difference, it's subtle, but the result is huge. It's different. It's incredibly it can be detrimental when you're actually fighting against something. So let me explain what I mean in regards to this. I hear a lot of people, and I understand when they say that Taigetans are negative because they're constantly pointing at things that are going wrong, things that are bad and things that are happening. But the idea here is for them to make us aware of what the agendas are. And they're usually, they're all in disguise to make them look like they are good for us. Now, this is not the idea of the Taigetans. The idea is to let us know what's happening because we are unaware of it, and for us to energetically say no. Because if Cabal doesn't mind whether we say yes or no, they wouldn't need to disguise it. They wouldn't need to disguise these agendas. So they do care whether we say yes or no. They do care that we say no. So they don't want that. Now, here's the tricky part. To say no versus to focus on it and then fight against it. Okay, that's quite detrimental. And let me explain why. It's all about frequencies. Now, as you already know, probably, is your experience is a reflection of your frequency. And your frequency is a reflection of your thoughts. So what you think becomes your experience. Now, when we think about something, it's because we focus on it. Whether it's good or bad, there's a focus on it. So there's not right or wrong. If you're focused on something, It's you start thinking about it, and then that becomes your frequency, and then that becomes your experience. So what you need to do here is, when they point to something that is bad, right? The idea here is to say, right, this is bad. I don't want it. Say no, because energetically you're saying no. Okay, simple. That takes care of the cabal. Now, take care of yourself. Instead of focusing on it and saying, this is terrible, I'm going to tell everyone. And after months and months and years, you're constantly focusing it and telling people about it, focusing it, telling people about it. Guess what? You start having a frequency in regards to this negative thing. And then you start having an experience in regards to it. That's not what they want you to do. They want you to do the opposite. So when you look at something you do not want, the easiest thing is actually to ignore it, or even better, look at the opposite, what you want as opposed to that. So for example, if they point out that they are giving us poison in our food, the opposite is that we want food that is healthy. So what I'm going to concentrate on is on healthy food. And I'm going to enjoy this healthy food. But I'm not going to concentrate on this healthy food because of the agenda. You see what I mean? Just forget about it and concentrate on what's good. Because if you're concentrated on what's good because of the agenda, and you're constantly thinking, I'm going to focus on this food because of this bad agenda, constantly on this, not month after month, year after year, guess what? You're going to have that in your experience. The bad thing is going to become your experience. Why? Because you focus on it. So there's a big difference in saying no and not focusing on it, and saying no and fighting against it. Because when you fight against it, you focus on it. And when you focus on something, it becomes your frequency. And that frequency, then it's your experience. See what I mean? So there's a subtle difference, but the result is huge. It's so different. So that's really important. So this is all about the law of attraction, the law of mirrors, manifestation. And it's something that there's so much information on the net in regards to this that everyone is just confused. Everyone is confused about it because they think, for example, I know Tibetans prefer for it to be called the law of mirrors instead of the law of attraction. And I understand why now, because you're not attracting something. You're just becoming a frequency of something. It's different from attracting it. So I think the law of mirrors, it's better than the law of attraction. It's just a name thing. Let me just check that this is working. One moment, please. Yeah, this is working. Okay. So that's something I think it's quite important, and it's being said over and over again in chats and in regards to the Tibetans. Whether there are genuine people saying this, it's fine. I think as long as you are respectful about it, that you're genuinely wanting to know why, I think it's fine. I think having a discussion in regards to this, I think it's important. I think it helps. And it helps as well to understand your own understandings, understand your own thoughts, understand your own frequency when you start discussing something and you hear the point of view of someone else. Now, of course, there are people who are asking that it's just matrix. the matrix is fighting against something that goes against it. So that's why I like these lives and these videos where we can discuss these matters. Now, let me just think. I lost my thought, my train of thought. Now, I want to explain a little bit more and more extensively the idea, not the idea, the law of mirrors, because I find it that many have like just not an understanding of it. They can't seem to apply it. Well, it's not that you apply it because it's a law. It's always happening because that's how it works. That's how things work. So whether you are someone who is thought of as good or someone that you're thought of as bad, it has nothing to do with it. It's a law of mirror. It's a frequency match thing, which is why the spaceships, when they want to, for example, the spaceships going back to Temer, it takes them, I think, it is instant. Basically, they change the frequency of the spaceship and they end up in Temer and the frequency of Temer. So it is instant. It's manifestation. It's as simple as that. Now, I know it takes them, it's not instant. I think it takes them, I don't know, half an hour to get there, but that's because they have to jump into a place where they're not going to, I think, crash onto other ships. So they arrive, I think, a little bit further away from the planet, and then they actually travel, like normally towards the planet. That's how I understand it anyway. Anyway, that's another topic in itself. Back to the law of mirrors. Now, it's I think it's quite simple, because some people say, well, I don't know why things are not working. What am I thinking? I mean, what's going on here? Well, to find out what your thoughts are, to find out what your frequency is, have a look at what you are experiencing. Because your experience matches your frequency, and your frequency matches your thoughts. So if you're having an experience, a bad experience, for example, let's have the example of the Taiketans are pointing to an agenda that you do not like. Let's say that you concentrate on this agenda. Now, by concentrating on this and fighting against it, now think about this, you are fighting against it, which means someone is attacking you. So let's say you concentrate on this agenda for a long time and it becomes your frequency. How you're going to experience that frequency, it's personal to each person. So it's going to be different from me, and it's going to be different from you. So we can both be concentrating on the agenda that we do not like. Let's say we do that. How I am going to experience that, it's going to be different on how you are going to experience it. So let's say we are fighting against something, which means something is attacking us. It's obvious, right? Something needs to be attacking us for us to fight against it. So how are we going to experience that in our lives? Well, for me, it might be that for some reason, my boss at my job, it's constantly attacking me. It's like a constant attack, and I'm constantly having to fight against it. So there's constantly a fighting going on here. So in my experience, that's how my focus on this agenda that I do not like reflects on my experience. It's going to reflect in my work against my boss. Now, for you, it might be reflected at home. It could be that your mother is constantly attacking you, and you're constantly having to fight it. So how you're going to experience it, it's going to be unique to you. So are you constantly fighting against people? Do you find that someone is constantly attacking you, whether it's at work, whether it's your friends, whether there are strangers? Is it something that you're constantly fighting? Is that your experience? Then the idea is to just quiet down and just ponder. I think it takes sometimes weeks, sometimes it takes like a couple of weeks. That's what I find. That you're just thinking about it. What is it that I am focusing on, that I'm fighting against? Am I angry at something? Am I, there's something I do not like and I'm constantly thinking about it? And I bet you're going to find the answer. For me, the answer usually comes when I'm taking a shower. For some reason, because I enjoy taking showers for some reason. So when you are actually having fun and you're relaxing, the answer comes to you and you realize what you've been doing. Now, when you realize it, the best thing to do is acknowledge it. You say, oh, I'm fighting against this. This is awful. So you're going to find what you're fighting against. It's something that there's nothing you can do about it. Maybe it's the government. The government is doing something. I mean, what are you going to do against the government? You might not be able to do anything against it. But the thing is that you're focusing on it. So stop focusing on it. So don't talk about it. Don't think about it. Don't write about it. Don't engage in debates about it. I know there is this idea in the world that you need to watch the news to be aware of what's happening in the world so that you become a wise person, that you are a knowledgeable person, and you are a person who is aware of its surroundings, and you have a compassion for others because you know of their pain. It expands your culture, it expands your knowledge. There is this idea in the world that you need to be aware of what's happening in the world. The problem is that all the news everywhere, newspapers, online, and on TV, it's to guide your perception. They're not really news. They're not news. So the thing is that it's a little bit difficult, and it's true, to go against this, to say to someone, oh, I do not watch the news, because usually you're going to get the feedback of saying, oh no, you have to watch the news. You have to be aware of what's happening in the world so that you know how to be safer. If you don't know, people are getting killed, I don't know, in that suburb, how are you going to avoid it if you don't know? There's always explanation of why you need to watch the news. So it is important on what you focus on. In my case, I stopped watching the news about 20 years ago because I realized that after watching them, I was just feeling bad. And I was thinking, I'm feeling bad every single day because I'm watching news from an entity that, first of all, you can see, it is so obvious now that they're not interested in giving news, telling you about the world. It's exaggeration. So they repeat something over and over and over again for days, sometimes for months. They have the music, and then they have the most ridiculous questions to the victims or to people that you think have those are not news. They're just milking it. They're just milking it so that everyone just feels bad. It's just the news there are just there to lower your frequency. That's basically it. That's the whole reason of the news. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to ignore it. And I did. In fact, I don't have a TV. I have never bought a TV. I'm definitely going to buy one now. Um, I have never watched the news for 20 years now. And guess what? I am very aware of what's going on in the world. I'm very aware of what's going on around me. And it has actually helped me in my own frequency. It is something that you can experience the difference. There is definitely a before and after. But I remember that for me, when I made that decision, I was in such a low place. I was just so desperate to clean my frequency. I just knew, because I understood that my experience was a reflection of my frequency, and my frequency is a reflection of what I focus on, no matter what that is what I focus on day after day after day, hour after hour, second after second. Do you know that it takes 17 seconds for a node to be made, to be start to manifest? So if you focus on something, no matter what it is, good, bad, sad, fun, exciting, the node of the frequency of that start to manifest after 17 seconds, 17 seconds. And then that expands, and then you start to experience it. The experience, you can have the experience within minutes, hours. You can test this. It's true. It's kind of amazing. It's great. But it's not something that you apply it. It's something that you're aware of, because whether you know it or not, it applies to you, because it is a law. It's a law. It's you don't need to be aware of it. You don't need to apply it. It's just how it works. Now, another thing is that don't worry when you hear or see something that is negative, because people say, oh my God, it's negative. Now it's going to be in my experience. No, because it takes, a few seconds, a few minutes, a few hours where you have to focus on it for them to start experiencing it. So when you focus on something and you realize something is that you don't like, don't worry about it. Just say, oh, I don't like that. Think about what you actually like. Usually is the opposite. And just concentrate on the opposite thing. That's all you have to do. Now, there is always going to be contrast. You're always going to be seeing things that you don't like. Because if you don't know what you don't like, how do you know what you like? The whole idea of having an experience, it's the basis of it is the contrast. To have an experience, you need to have a contrast. How do you know what's cold if you don't know what's hot? How do you know what you don't like if you don't know what you like? So there's always going to be contrast. So don't worry when you see something you don't like or you hear something you don't like. Just say, oh, good, I know something that I don't like. Now I know what I like. Do you know? So when people start saying, the Taigetans are negative. No, they're not. They're trying to make you aware of the attacks. It's trying to make you aware of what they're doing on purpose, because this planet is kind of unique in that way. I mean, you decided yourself that you to come here. So that's a good thing. When I found out when I realized that it was actually my decision to come here, I remember the first time I realized it, I was confused. I was thinking to myself, how's that possible? How can I put myself through this? Because at the time I wasn't having a pleasant time here. And I thought, how can I put myself through this hell? But I think, the idea of learning that it was you who made the decision is to give you back control of your life, control of your decisions, control of your experience, of your frequency. It gives you control. Because let's say it wasn't my idea to come here. It means that I have no control of my experience. Can you imagine? Now, that's a horrible thing to even think about. So realizing that it was your decision to be here, it's actually a wonderful thing, because it gives you back a control over your life. You're driving it. You're on the driving seat, which is what this planet and the people who run it don't want you to understand that or to know that. So you are on the driving seat. You're always on the driver's seat. You always have control over it. So now that you're aware of it, when you become aware of it, be careful what you focus on, because what you focus on, what you will have as a frequency, and your frequency is reflected on your experience. I think there is a simplicity to this, and because it's so simple, Cabal tries to make it really difficult for you to understand it, so that you get tired of it and you just get confused with it. No, it's quite simple. It's quite simple. Let me see. Okay. Now, what else? I think that's about it. So this is a new channel. And the thing is that I'm used to in my, well, you already know this. I'm repeating myself. In my Spanish channel, I'm used to people having being in the chat and interacting with me. But because this is a new one, there's no one here. So it's just me talking. Usually when there's someone in the chat, I can go on and talk a little bit more. So I usually talk about half an hour. It's 28 minutes, and then I start talking to people. But since there's no one there, then I think I leave it. I'll leave it here. I'll keep doing lives. So come back if you can, and interact with me in the chats. Talk to me. Ask me questions. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching my video. Thank you for your comments. And I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.